brought to you by Minimizer, Blooming Prairie, Minnesota. Minimizer was formed more than 30 years ago when truck driver Dick Kruckerberg literally invented the poly fender.
These are the first blueprints of my fenders 25 years ago.
Fast forward 3 decades, and Minimizer makes a variety of aftermarket truck products. Blooming Prairie continues to serve as company headquarters because Minimizer is committed to its hometown and the success of the community as a whole.
We are here at the Where's Mark segment with a very large group of people sitting in front of me here. Yep, that's the end of the line right there. It took me a long time to get all the way down there. And no, this is not the Brady bunch, but this is the Ratzloff bunch. And our member of honor today is Matt Ratzloff. And Jeff, introduce yourself, tell us what you do.
My name is Jeff Ratzloff. I'm a sergeant for the Bloomington Police Department. Matt's my son.
All right. Did you ever have to give your kids a ticket?
Nope.
No?
Hopefully they knew better. Or they knew how to hide it very well. Yeah. Not yet.
My son knows the Blooming Prairie Police pretty well after just being there a year. And he almost had them do an April Fool's joke where they were going to handcuff him, bring him to the house, and say that he had been found drinking.
Perfect.
Which I would have went ballistic. But
that won't happen to me. So.
And you are?
I'm Josh, oldest brother.
How old are you, Josh?
24.
And where do you go to school?
I actually graduated from Mankato.
Mankato?
Yep.
You're an Adam Phelan fan then?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Gotta be.
All right. And you are?
I'm Maya Ratzloff.
Maya. And how old are you?
I'm 14. I'm in 8th grade.
8th grade? All right.
Hi, I'm Kelly.
Mama Kelly?
Yep. And I work full-time at Wells Fargo as a home mortgage consultant.
Okay.
Matt Ratzloff. Just battling leukemia right now. I'm 21. So.
And Matt, I've seen you many times working for the fair.
Yep.
And we did a lot of work with the fair last year.
Been there, would have been 6 years this summer, so I've been there quite a while.
My favorite was Nick the Camel.
Yep.
And you are?
I'm Sammy Leininger. I'm 19. I go to Winona State.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Ben Ratzloff. I'm 19. I'm the littlest brother.
The littlest brother.
Yep.
And I heard some stories about you, but we'll get back to you later.
Oh, gotcha.
All right. I guess I'm going to start with you, Kelly. How did this all happen?
Oh boy. You know, it was just Matt had been home, and it's hard for me to look at. I gotta keep looking at the camera. He was home, not feeling the best, and we had gone to the doctor 6 times before finally we actually got some answers. So Matt had been to our urgent care in Owatonna 6 times. On the 6th time, which was January 25th, they sent us home again in the morning. And by late afternoon, Matt's temp was at 104. So we took him to the emergency room, and long story short, he had 107 when we checked in there. And then they did a quick temp just to confirm, and it was 106. And we were told prior to that, Matt had mono. He was diagnosed with mono. And he just wasn't getting any better. And so they did diagnose him with severe pneumonia that night in Owatonna. We spent a night in ICU. And then comes the morning of January 26th. And, we were kind of thrilled to hear that Matt had pneumonia because we finally knew what was going on. And then they came in and they said they had some other news, and they wanted to transfer him by ambulance to Rochester, and that's when they told us that they suspected that he had leukemia.
When you got that word, was it while you were still in Owatonna, or did they wait to tell you till you got to Rochester?
No, they told us in Owatonna. Actually, Jeff and I weren't even there. We had gone home to get some clothes, and my mom called and just said we needed to get back there right away. And so we did, and when we walked in, he told us again. And I don't think Matt was so sick, he never even showed any response, and no emotion whatsoever. Matt didn't have. He just.
With that kind of a fever, he must have almost been comatose at that.
He was, and we didn't find that out till later that Matt could have went one way or the other. He could have gotten better, or he could have passed away. And thankfully, his body responded to the medicine, and here we are. So that's why it's very hard for me to leave him, because every time we leave something, we would get a call on something. And not being there when he was told that they suspected leukemia was a very hard one. So when you got back from getting the clothes, is that when they told you? Actually, they told my mom and dad, who were with Matt in ICU.
So you heard it from your mom and dad?
I heard it from my mom that they thought he could have leukemia. Did we? Yeah, and then a doctor met us right away when we got there, and then they.
Could you believe what was coming out of his mouth?
No, I turned to you and I just put my hands over my face, and I thought I was going to pass out. I wasn't sure if I was going to get sick or if I was going to pass out. So luckily I didn't do either one. But then they loaded him up, and off to Rochester we went, and the ambulance passed us on 14. And that was a difficult one too, because we could see Matt in the ambulance going, "Thank you." And he was so sick. He was so sick that I don't even know if truly it had sunk into me that that's what was going on.
Jeff, you were back. You're hearing it the first time. Leukemia.
Yep.
That's your son, man.
Yep.
That's your boy.
Yep.
What do you think?
I'll be honest. I can still picture it in my head. The look, the fear. Just him. There was shock. I can tell there was shock there. But I knew. Thank you. I knew that. That's, as a parent, you need to be the strong one at that point. That's your kid. And so I looked at her, because she I could tell it sunk in. I said, nope, he's got to be strong for him. And so that's that. From that point on, I vowed that's it. It's time to think positive from here on forward. But I tell you, it seems she's right. We were scared to leave. Every time we would try to leave, it was one thing after another that they said, he got this side effect from leukemia, or he's got to do this, and it's been quite a journey since January already, and to be able to sit here and see how well he's doing is just phenomenal.
As a dad, I think, or as a parent, it's so many times you think I'd rather go through this than have one of my sons go through this.
So many times.
In a heartbeat.
Yeah, it's got to be. That had to be.
Yeah.
Now, where were all the other kids when this happened?
Josh lives in Burnsville, works at Target Corp, and Ben was at home, and Maya was at school.
Did you call the kids right away?
Not till we got on the road. We just kind of wanted to, all right, let's try to get him squared away. We'll get it figured out. And boy, I'll be honest, it was such a blur. It was the most quiet, surreal drive. We've made that drive to Rochester many times. We're both from Montana, so we've been back and forth our whole lives. And it was just a surreal drive. And I don't even remember when we called.
I don't remember either. It was that day is kind of a blur, kind of. I know that as sick as Matt was, he just said, the only words he said was, "Mom, will you call Sammy?" Will you call Sammy? I remember that. That was the first. Will you call her and see if she'll meet us there? And yep. And that's kind of where we were. I mean, it's hard to almost remember the drive, and I remember seeing the ambulance, and then when we got there, that was when I just begged and pleaded for this to be me.
I just think it was it was a little overwhelming too but we also knew we were in the right place because by the time we parked and got up, it's 21. You get news via text. He sent us a text message with what room he's in already. But we walked in and we couldn't even get through the wall of doctors that were already at his side. There was a team of doctors there the second he rolled in, and I can't say enough about those people. They've got him to where he is today. That is what I remember, is just being in the right place. All right, we're here. We made it to where we have to be. We just kept telling ourselves, this is where we need to be to get it better.
Right.
And I don't think even at that point we realized, even with the team of doctors, that he was as sick as he was. We were like, no, this is pneumonia. And still, they hadn't confirmed leukemia on the 26th when we first got there. And so, we were still trying to tell ourselves, no, this is just pneumonia. This is still pneumonia. Then they did a biopsy right away. And that took, 24, 48 hours? And it came back and it confirmed that it indeed was acute myeloid leukemia. There's several subtypes under leukemia, so we wouldn't know his subtype until, weeks down the road. And, each subtype gets, I want to say worse, but harder to cure and as you go down. And when I found out Matt's subtype, it was like, oh my gosh, it's crazy. Matt's number is 5. It's always been 5 for every sport you're in, has been 5. And his subtype came back 5. Number 5. So, subtypes don't really mean anything to us, but it was just the number stood out.
It's funny when you're going through something like that, there's two things that kick in. One's the tangible and one's the intangible. And you're thinking about the things that are happening and the spiritual things that are happening, and you're trying to figure it all out and you're trying to process. But at that point, when that word was spoken to you, your life changed right there in an instant.
It changed in an instant.
Everything was starting to be a new normal for this entire family.
Absolutely.
Joshua, when did they tell you?
I think they told me, it was like Thursday afternoon. I was actually at work and saw.
Friday morning. I think Thursday we were in Rochester Friday morning.
Because I think I stayed over that night.
Yep.
Just kind of called me and told me the situation.
What was going through your head at that point?
Just a lot. Doesn't really all set in until you're there and you're sitting with everyone that you realize it's actually real.
Yeah.
I think it kind of all happened so quick.
Josh, tell them what you were in. Josh was in the middle of an interview for a new job for Target. And his interview was supposed to be, I want to say that following, this was a Friday, it was supposed to be Monday. And Josh made the decision that it wasn't promotion. Josh made the decision that promotion wasn't important right now, and that he couldn't interview as best as he would normally be able to, so he chose to withdraw. And as much as we told him not to, he said for him, emotionally, he had to withdraw. And then he took a week off. He spent a week with us at the hospital, and it took everything we had to make him go back. He just didn't want to leave.
Josh, that has to be rough. That's your little brother. That's part of your core group right there, and I can tell that this family is not like the normal family. You guys
Probably true.
You guys are so seamless that I can't tell where one starts and one ends.
Yeah.
So to have that threat that one of your own is in trouble, and you feel totally helpless, right?
Yeah.
So you're looking at another sibling today that's watching this by television or by internet, and they're saying, I don't know how to handle it. What do you tell them? How did you get through it, Josh?
It's tough. I don't think there's really an easy route. Kind of like he said, you just have to realize, like, we're all in this together. And you just have to be strong for Matt. I mean, he's the one going through everything, but you can't let your emotions or anyone else's kind of get in the way of that, because he's the one that's fighting through the worst of it. And I think everyone just kind of has to band together and just be there for each other.
I kind of think you were the brother that, when you had that quiet moment with Matt alone in the hospital, you kind of went up to him and just hugged him and told him you loved him. I mean, well, that had to been just surreal right then at that point.
Yeah.
We really, you look at all of us here and the lineup, and truly, this is the kid, and everybody here will probably say the same thing. Matt ate the healthiest. Everything he ate was healthy. Nothing unhealthy. He was eating the right way. He exercised on a daily basis. He worked out every day. He was humongous. He was ripped. He was ripped, wasn't he? And
we used to watch him we used to see him walking around the fair, and we go, "Who's that? Who's that guy?"
I know. And so when this happened, I mean, we all looked at each other and just said, "You know what? He's the strongest of all of us." And he's always been up for challenges. I mean, we all have, but Matt takes it to a further extent in all his challenges. And so if anybody could beat this, the Lord picked the right one, because Matt's the one that can do this. Not that any of us couldn't, but Matt is just, at that time when all of this happened, he was the healthiest and the most driven person of any of us.
I think it had to be frustrating, simply because you're a police officer, you make things happen, and things have to obey under your command. And Kelly, you're also one that needs to be in control of situations.
I do.
And when you get out of control, that's when you start to lose it a little bit. You can't make your husband carry a purse like that without having some kind of power.
I think that's from being in the hospital so long. He knew he either had to pick it up or I'd forget it. That's true.
And you, little one, how did you react?
Well, I first found out from my grandpa, because he picked me and my cousin up from school, and he said, Matt might have a form of cancer. My heart just kind of dropped down to my stomach. I didn't really believe what he was saying, and I saw him in Owatonna ICU, and I just kind of broke down. I was really sad. I was scared. I was confused.
It's hard to understand and wrap your head around that, isn't it? And it's tough, but everything's for a purpose, and you're going to have to now be strong for a generation of kids your age, telling them how to get through this. So the gauntlet has been passed to you for your generation. Now, Ben, you're the one that was they call you Gopher, right? Because you went for this and you went for that, and you go for this and go for that.
Yep.
And Ben you were the old faithful, weren't you? When anything needed to be transported, you got it done. Okay. Your daddy taught you well. I don't know what it was like being raised up in a family where your dad was a police officer, but I assume that there was a lot of discipline, a lot of love, but a lot of discipline. So, how'd you hear about it, Ben?
Well, my grandpa, again, we were at the hospital in Owatonna, and he said he might have it, and then when he got transported to Rochester, day after, and then Friday came, and then they said it for sure, and it just shocks you. It just, you can't handle it. It's just break down in tears, and you just don't know what to do. Especially, that's my big brother.
Yeah.
He's supposed to sometimes look out for the little ones, but for the first time, I actually get to look out for him. I get to wash his clothes, even though that might not be important. It's important to me, because it means he's going to have clean clothes. So it's just nice to watch. I get to watch over my big brother for the first time.
And that's something
that watching me.
And that's something when he goes through his life, that's something he'll never forget, Ben.
Yeah.
And he will have a full life. Mm-hmm. We believe that he's going to be one of the championship stories from this whole thing, and that God chose him for this purpose because he was strong enough to handle this. Mm-hmm. And now his life has changed, and we'll talk about that later. And Tell me about your relationship with Matt.
This could get good.
Well, he saw me. This is how we met. So he saw me at a party, and one of my friends when I was younger knew me and told him who I was, and then he messaged me on Facebook, and he asked if I wanted to hang out and gave me his number. And then we've been inseparable since.
Sammy, we couldn't have done this without Sammy. Sammy actually would come. Now this girl, mind you, is going to school in Winona. So she goes to school on Mondays. I kind of know the schedule. She would leave for school at 11 to go back from Rochester to Winona, back on Mondays. Then she wouldn't be able to come Tuesdays, and then she'd be back on Wednesday to stay with us Wednesday night, then head back to Winona and come back Thursday and stay Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and she did this since January, all the driving like that. This is a girl that would show up and she would sit in the recliner next to Matt, and she would never move except to go to the bathroom. She would never leave his side. It let us, we would be able to get up and go maybe get some fresh air or stuff like that, but Sammy sat next to him from the second she got there until she had to leave for school. She was there all the time. And she was an amazing nurse, wasn't she? She really was. I mean, we couldn't have done this without Sammy. Honestly, could we, Jeff? We just love her.
Yeah.
She's been just amazing.
So are you glad he wanted to hang out with you? Even all this that he's put you through now?
Yeah.
Gave you quite a scare. And now what I want to do is center in on the man of the hour. Matt. Sorry, Josh. So Matt, tell me what happened before this all came about. Were you feeling tired? Were you...
Like I said, I just graduated college in December, went home.
Where'd you graduate from?
Winona State.
Okay.
And then in January, I was planning on starting my police academy in Rochester because I graduated with a law enforcement degree. So around, I would say, Christmas time, I had my tonsils still, so I get strep throat a lot. So I went in thinking I had strep, and it came back negative. And like my mom said, we went back and forth for 6 times. And then I finally got diagnosed with mono when I went back to Winona because I had an apartment there. Went back to Winona for the police academy. So I got diagnosed with mono, came home so I could recover. And then, like my mom said, never got better. Then went to the ER, got diagnosed with severe pneumonia, and then...
Were you getting kind of sick and tired of being sick and tired?
Yeah, I was. I just, like my mom said, I just wanted an answer to finally figure out what was going on so I could start
living a normal
medication life. And yeah, just getting back to normal life. So.
How close were you to you were actually doing your training, weren't you?
I was 3 weeks in, so I was doing, I think, just the lecture part. I couldn't do the physical part because the mono wouldn't let me, so I was just doing the classroom and lecture part. So yeah, I was about 3 or 4 weeks in when I had to withdraw.
You and your dad are pretty close, aren't you?
Yeah.
You just chose to follow in his footsteps.
Yep.
And he means the world to you.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden you got this high fever, and mom and dad are there.
Dad wasn't there.
Dad was fishing at the time.
Dad was ice fishing.
I was back that night.
Oh.
So how'd that feel when he finally came in? He's the patriarch. He gives you the strength and
like you said, we were super close. Like he coached me in all my sports growing up, and like you said, I followed in his footsteps, and he kind of at a young age kind of engraved in my brain, like, and it pertains to this, like you don't stop fighting until the battle's done, and like it's kind of the mindset you have to have as a cop too, because in an instant you could be in a shootout for your life, or just kind of the mindset he put into me about not quitting until the battle's finished. So that's kind of what I've been, my whole mindset throughout this whole cancer journey is don't quit till I'm finally cured. So
how did he get you through this?
Just like, being here for me, and like my whole family just being here for me, and just the simple things, just driving back and forth, doing the laundry, just simple texts, just
telling you his stupid jokes, funny jokes,
exactly. Just
trying to make you laugh.
Yeah, staying up like we.
That's what we do as dads.
Yeah. So I'm very fortunate to have a very loving family through all this, and I couldn't have done it without them. And it's been a journey, but hopefully we're almost done with that journey coming up here. So.
Matt, when did you realize you were really in trouble?
It's kind of ironic. Like throughout this whole thing, I've only cried one time. I'm not a big emotional person, so I would say right when the words came out that it was cancer, like I was like, well, crap. I was honestly more worried about having to withdraw from my police academy because I wanted to finish that because I wanted to get going with my career as soon as possible. So I was more upset about having to put my career on hold than fighting for my life, so it's kind of weird.
Well, that's one of the reasons why you're called to be a police officer. Is the fact is that you care more about what other people are going through than what you're going through, and you're looking at all these people trying to be strong. And one of the things about you, Matt, is you got the bull meter right up there close to you. You can tell when somebody's giving you a story, and you can see right through things like this. And you probably knew that they were trying to be strong, but you knew that their hearts were breaking, and I think that must have killed you more than anything else.
Yeah, and I mean, I was kind of happy it happened to me because I could control the situation, and I could tell myself how hard I could fight instead of having one of these guys having to fight and not being able to do anything. So I was kind of happy at that point that I was fighting my own fight, and so I don't know.
So you're laying in the bed now. What did they do?
It was.
What did they do?
Yeah, they.
A lot of tests.
Right away. So I like the severe pneumonia, so my lungs were full of fluid. So I couldn't start chemo for 3 weeks because I was too sick, and they put a PICC line in my arm that got a blood clot, so my arm was 4 times the size of my arm right now. And then they put one in my neck, and they forgot to put 2 lines instead of 1. So they had to remove that, and then finally they put one in my chest that I have, that I just get all my blood work through. And then all the blood tests, all the biopsies, the EKGs, there was dozens of tests that I had to go through. So
feel like kind of a pincushion?
Yeah, and they, like, at one point they couldn't find a vein in my arm, so my whole arm was swollen with prick marks, so that was kind of a hassle, but...
You know, I got to sit down sometime. I had broken my neck when I was 19. They said I'd never walk again. But I think you're kind of cut from that same cloth, and that somebody tells me what I can't do, I'll show you what I can do. And you're the same way. There's just no give up in you, is there, Matt?
I can't, because if I give up, that's my life, so I can't really give up in this fight, so.
Yeah. So how good was it to have your family around you and Sammy right next to you the whole time? And
it made it a whole lot easier, I can tell you that much, because I know some people on my floor at the hospital that they couldn't have their family with them because they had to be at work or they just had to be at home. So I was very fortunate to have my family with me at all times. So they've just supported me throughout this whole thing. So
we joke because they on our floor they gave us we called our room the penthouse because they moved us to the biggest room that they had in our area.
You realize that's because that's because your husband carries a gun, right?
So we moved 4 times before we got the big room. So they'd move us to a bigger one, and then they said, "Okay, we've got the best room now for you guys," and it was perfect. Yeah, it was.
Comes your home.
And so you underwent chemotherapy.
3 times.
3 times?
Yep.
And how many more are you gonna have to do?
I have one more that's like the high dosage right before my transplant. I'm scheduled for my transplant either June 6th, 7th, or 8th.
And what are they gonna transplant?
Stem cell. So basically I just get a whole new immune system because my blood is, I mean, I'm cancer free, but I stand a chance if I don't take a transplant, I stand a chance of having it come back. And when they say when it comes back even worse.
Yeah.
So to fully cure it, I would have to undergo a stem cell transplant. So like I said, it's basically a whole new immune system.
Well, yeah, and even little things like a cold or could develop a pneumonia just like that.
Exactly.
Yeah. So how worried are you about this stem cell transplant?
You know, I was a lot worried. Like 2 weeks ago, I was a lot worried because all the doctors and nurses said it's a long process and you're gonna feel like crap forever. And then we did this educational class, which basically gave us all this information about it. And to be honest, I've already been through the worst. My second chemo treatment, I threw up a lot and just completely run down. So if I'm being completely honest, I'm just not super scared for it, to be honest. I mean,
Did you lose your hair?
No, not fully. I shaved it.
Oh, you know what? You know what? That bald look, man, that works for you.
I know. So I haven't lost it fully, which is
What do you
awesome.
think, Sammy? That bald works for you too? Yeah, I'd go with it, man. So how many more weeks you think?
I would say 2 weeks until I start my chemo, and then I would say either 3 weeks or 4 weeks out from transplant.
And it depends if insurance, if it's right now, it's in the hands of the insurance company. So if the insurance, we had to wait for the bone marrow biopsy, the last one, which was Monday, and we got the results yesterday. Yes. Yep, we got the results yesterday that he's still no cancer. So now everything's been packed up and sent to the insurance for final approval. If that comes back, they get 14 days. So this transplant on June 6th, 7th, or 8th, that's based on the insurance company taking the full 14 days.
So it could be earlier.
It could be sooner. The donor's already ready. I mean, the donor's...
You do have a donor already?
Oh, yeah. He's got a... Yep.
How much of a miracle was that to get that?
2 perfect matches right out of the chute. And thankfully, the donor that we're getting, nobody, he didn't get swiped up to anyone else. And it's a he. We kind of got that out of him, maybe. Yeah. It's a he. And he's from Germany, so it'll be coming internationally.
So you're probably going to start craving bratwurst and sausage. I look at how one thing fit perfectly to the next thing with you guys. I think you must be God's favorite family because everything was just absolutely planned in the order that it had to be planned, and you guys had to be in the right place at the right time. And I think sometimes you wonder, why do I have to go through this? I think one of the cool things is that your mom just testified the idea. You got a mom that was pleading, and God did hear your prayer, Kelly. And sometimes you wonder if he does, and he does. And you guys are evidence of that. And he's going to walk in that every day of his life. We talked to your dad about the idea that this is training that you can't get in the police academy.
This is the real world.
This is it. There's not too much that can be thrown at you after this. If you can get through this, everything's gravy. And I think that's speaks volumes to your character and what you're willing to go through for your profession. Going forward, Matt, how has this changed you?
Well, I look at life a lot different. I was cooped up in a hospital room for 7 weeks, not being able to go outside. So the first time going outside and just taking advantage of just fresh air and even an elevator ride, I never noticed that would be a big thing. So like I said, just taking every day as a new day and just living out every day to the fullest because you never know when something like this can happen to you.
Did you guys get embarrassed when you started squealing on the elevator?
Sammy
it was
and I.
cold out, you roll the window down in the car, he's like a dog with his head
He had his head out the window
with
just
his mask on.
Sammy and I had him in the elevator.
Yep.
That was great. He was so excited to ride the elevator.
Very
down.
important picture of him.
It is
the elevator doors
important
closing.
Matt, you're getting a second chance at life.
Yeah.
What are you going to do with it?
Well, I'm gonna get my body back in shape and then head back to the police academy so I can start my career again. But I'm not gonna take advantage of having a second chance at life. So, like I said, I'm gonna live every day to the fullest and just.
Do you know how many kids you're going to be able to? We talk about purpose. When I stood with that 9/11 hero, he went into St. Paul's Church, which was the little church in the middle of all the skyscrapers that got damaged, and that didn't even have a glass broken in it. And he sat there and he said, I swear, in his New York accent, I swear to God, I heard God's voice to me. He said, Jimmy, you've been wondering what your purpose was all your life, and now here you are standing right in front of it. Now, Matt, you're standing here right before your purpose. Do you know how many kids that are going through this that you're going to go into their hospital rooms And just the fact that you walked into their room will minister to their hearts and give them hope. Just your presence alone. You can just touch their hand. They're going to know you made it. You're going to be that champion for your generation. How much of a cool challenge is that?
It's awesome. It's like surreal, to be honest. So I don't know. I just kind
We
of
all said
speechless. So.
he's going to be a speaker. We all said that through all of this, Matt is so good with speaking that we just said, being a sports kid and also with his career, you're going to talk to kids. I see you as a police officer, but I also see you as a speaker.
Remember, Matt, back in high school where you didn't like to talk in front of people and you were kind of introverted? Yeah, I did my homework on you, man. And they couldn't get 2 words out of you most of the time.
Things have changed.
Yeah. Adversity has caused you to be comfortable in crowds and comfortable with people, which is what you needed to go forward in your life. This was a completion. Talk about things happening as a divine purpose. This was brought to your life that no amount of public college or high school could train you on.
Absolutely.
And just your spirit is so inspiring to me. And it's just like I want to go out and, I'm going to run this thing tomorrow, but I'm going to run it faster because of you, I think. I just, you just have that way about you that you just inspire anybody that's around you. You're infectious, man. And you know what? Your life is worth something, and that's why Matthew Ratzloff, that's why the enemy tried to take you out, is because of all that God's got planned for you and what you've got ahead of you. And your life is so worth something that they thought they were going to eradicate you. But guess what? Not on Dad's watch, not on Mom's watch, not on your brothers and sisters' watch, not on Sammy's watch, and not on your watch. You're about to go through into greatness, young man. And I hope you understand what that comes with. It's a great responsibility. The Bible says, to whom much is given, much is required. And now more is going to be required of you because you've gotten through it. And how powerful is that? Kelly, how has this caused you to grow?
I don't think I let the little things bother me as much anymore. And I look at my 4 kids and my husband, and I just love them all so much. I think it's made me a better mom because I know now that we need each other and we get through this. So.
Jeff, we talked about how schedules were thrown right out the window.
Yep.
That calendar on the kitchen refrigerator in the garbage.
Doesn't mean anything.
There's a new normal right now.
Yep.
And where are you going to go with this?
Well, like you've heard it many times already, life has changed. When I went back to work for the first time, I knew that it's the people that I work with that are important to me. It's not the job itself. It truly is about people. It's about community. It's about family. We've been through a lot of crap in the last 3 months, but
that's an understatement.
In our whole life. But you know what? We've been. We may have spent some times getting rough on each other and this and that lately, and it's tested us. It's tested us all the way across the board in anything. But you know what? Look at us sitting here.
Oh.
It's because of him. I put it onto his shoulders, and he stepped up.
You know what, Dad? You teach the same thing I do. I tell my kids. I've told them from a young age. I told them as I was coaching for 30 years basketball. And I'd always tell my athletes, and I tell my kids, don't just make an appearance, make a difference.
Yeah.
And you have taught these kids how to make a difference. And I'll tell you what.
That's them. They did it on their own. Jeff,
you are the Jeff
you can
is
just
the
tell them.
I
You just tell them they got to run with it.
I'm the blubbering mess that cries all the time, right?
But you are.
I'm the emotional one.
You are that perfect team.
Yep.
That when you walked into this young man's room, he felt a peace come into his heart. Something about having mom and dad there, right?
Exactly.
That they knew they were going to get through this. So I'll tell you what, this is a special family, and I thank you so much for letting me be a part of it today, and to come and hear your story, and we'll do our best to get this out. And I'll tell you what, if you need anything, you just ask. We'll be there. We'll always have a place in our hearts for you guys. Champions.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
That I heard of once in a